It's a little rare, but the Chiefs made some moves on day one of free agency. We got it late. We got it to you. There's more coming. We're going to get it today with the editor of ChiefsDigest.com, Matt Derrick. This is for you, Chiefs fans. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Back, everyone. This is Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day and for free on every platform that we have, including YouTube. If you jump over there and like, sub, and hit the bell for us, that would certainly help. I'm Reid Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, home of the Athletic Matrix. You'll see that hopefully by the end of this week. It's all getting crushed right now. And then Matt and I can go through it. We are very happy that you made us your first listen. Please check out the draft show and anything over at Chiefs Digest for your second listen. I appreciate you. Matt, Derrick, did you get any sleep last night? That's what I'm asking.
I did. I got a little bit. I slept in a little bit this morning. Probably shouldn't have. But no, at some point, I tell you what, I'm getting old. This just wears me down.
Hey, you know,
trying
to keep all those
tracking things down at 10:30 at night. It's for the birds, man.
And that was the funny thing to me. It's not that they got something done, which is a little atypical for the first wave of free agency, but if that it went all day long on, quite frankly, a player that I was a little surprised it would take that long on. Nothing against Reid. I think it's a good acquisition, but certainly not, up there with the Mays and the Tyrann Mathieu and the marquee names. Are you surprised the way that it went down and we found out some of the homegrown moves maybe before we found out about Justin Reid, who is the big acquisition so far?
Yeah, I was a little surprised because I didn't get the sense that the Chiefs would be very active in kind of the first wave. I mean, and I know a lot of people will still refer to the first wave as kind of through Wednesday, but for me, Monday is really that first wave to me. I mean, because that's Monday's the day when you see a lot of deals that are overpaid. To me, there's a little bit of a separation between what happens on day one versus even day two and day three. So, and we did, I mean, there was a little bit of a lull late Monday afternoon, early evening, where you started to see quieting down on some of the big, number deals. And Reid's popping up there, and Traverse Ward coming out kind of at the same time too. We're both in that kind of ballpark. And honestly, I mean, of the first day deals, I think the Chiefs got a really good one. I thought Reid would have gotten more than that. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't really think that the Chiefs were going to be in the ballpark for Reid. Because I thought, hey, good grief, if there's team talking about and about 12 to 14 for Tyrann Mathieu, Reid, younger, with a lot of upside, it's got to be in that ballpark too. So, I mean, I just look at this deal for Reid and think that the Chiefs got an absolute steal. And if that's the case, then there's no reason not to jump on it. So I see Reid's got to be seeing Kansas City as a place that he can come in. It's a role that he's going to be comfortable with because he's very similar in a lot of ways to Tyrann Mathieu. I think he's going to fit into this team. I mean, he's a little bit different player with some certain characteristics, but and in some ways he's a better player than Tyrann Mathieu, and he's a younger player. So I think it's a really good fit. He clearly wants to come here and, try and get a ring. That's why guys are coming to Kansas City to do. So that means sacrificing a little money. Maybe that's why you landed Justin Reid.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the factors are multiple there, but I agree with you. I like the fit. He brings the one thing that Tyrann Mathieu couldn't bring. That is the physicality at over 205 pounds, over 6'1". Yes, he's very athletic. Is he Juan Thornhill athletic? Is he Eric Berry athletic? Not quite, but he's in that range. For the Athletic Matrix for the last 10 classes, he is in the top 10. I'm sorry, top 16. Eric Berry is number 2, and Juan Thornhill is number 3. So you gotta give that some give and take. But that gives you another playmaker, another athletic ability playmaker back there. He started real hot in Houston, had a lot of ball touches, not necessarily takeaways, but PBUs. And I think that is a good sign, something that the Chiefs used to look for more so than they have in the last few years. But I think that's a good sign going forward. I think really what drags value down is playing in Houston the last 2 years. The lack of J.J. Watt, just the entire debacle down there. I think that's probably the biggest draw down on his value. And I think this is not only a good fit a very good fit in my opinion, because I think they can be multiple, but also I think great value. Do you think that that's really what it came down to in finding the right target that could fulfill both those things?
Yeah, I think you got a great point there that, playing on that defense probably did draw down his value. But I'll tell you what, for me, I think it only adds to his value because what I see is a guy who never quit on a terrible team, especially last year, led that team. I mean, he took over that defense. And for a young guy, year four, to be their Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, that tells you a little bit about just what the organization thinks of him, what his teammates think of him. He was consistent, and he was the guy. He was the only one for the most part holding anybody accountable in Houston. Now he's coming to Kansas City, where honestly he's not going to have to be the sole leader. He's going to have a much smaller responsibility, but I think he's absolutely capable of it. He certainly has done more in Houston than he's going to be asked to do in Kansas City. He's going to be asked to win more games, and that's a big deal. But in Houston, especially last year, he was that team. He was the guy that was making sure everybody was in the right spot. He was handling the communication. He's the guy holding everybody accountable. He's going to have some help in that locker room in Kansas City, so he's not going to have to do it all himself. But he got a ton of experience in Houston being a leader, and I think that's going to pay off for the Chiefs.
I think so too. And I think that communication and adaptability, I think, is going to be key. One thing that's flying under the radar about this signing is a lot of questions about his play, et cetera, but it comes back to me, and no one seems to want to talk about this, but the man played for David Culley last season in the worst season that you could actually imagine for that franchise. That connection to Andy Reid had to set both Brett Veach and Andy Reid at ease, understanding the character of the player that you're getting based on what David Culley saw in that season.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I'm sure there were some calls made to David Culley to get some background reports. But remember, too, this is a guy, he played with Tyrann Mathieu during his rookie season in 2018. So I probably had a little bit of a scouting report on from Tyrann, too. And going back to what Tyrann has said about Justin in the past, that he plays with a mean streak and, he's got that, and Justin Reid's given a ton of credit to Tyrann Mathieu for helping him out during that season, helping him develop. He's even talked about now about wanting to continue to pay it forward to young players the same way that Tyrann Mathieu did for him. I think having that connection too gives the Chiefs a lot of comfort and confidence in him. He's a smart kid. He played at Stanford. He's a science major at Stanford, for crying out loud. If I was playing football at Stanford, I wouldn't have been a science major. I would have been probably. I won't say anything, so I won't insult anybody. But I'll say I was a journalism major because hey, Mizzou's better than that.
Oh, okay. Well, hey.
But clearly, I think those are all the things. During his introductory press conference, we're going to hear a lot of that. He's a smart kid. He's a physical kid who can do a little bit of everything. There's a difference between him and Mathieu as far as the makeup goes. Mathieu had a lot more experience as a cover guy, as a corner. Reid's been more of a free safety playing. I think he's much more comfortable on the back end than he is up at the line of scrimmage. Doesn't mean he can't do that, but it does make me wonder if the Chiefs are still looking for that hybrid player who can play a little bit of safety and a little bit of linebacker, a little bit in the box.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too, as well as possibility at the nickel. We'll talk about that coming up. Want to get to a little bit from our friends from Built Bar before we talk about the other moves that have come to fruition. You've heard us talk about these things before. These are Built Bars, and you have to take advantage of them. The new year is rolling, whether your resolution is or not, but these things are here to help you, whether they're a meal replacement or a substitute for something that you normally would take in, maybe isn't quite as healthy for you. All you have to do is try the puffs or try the marshmallow flavors or any of these, like the coconut almond, you have the toffee almond, all kinds of options for you that taste great. They taste like a candy bar. They provide the protein that you need, 130 calories on average, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein that you need to get through the day. And they're all covered in actual real chocolate. So you get a taste of what you're looking for as well. You can replace meals. You can actually supplement meals. You can do whatever you need to get through the day. And we have a special offer for you. Go to built.com and use our code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. So two other things that did come out on first day of free agency was the restructure with Frank Clark and the departure of Charvarius Ward. I ask you, what's the bigger impact?
Um, Replacing Charvarius Ward is going to be big. I mean, that's a starting corner that I think is still an ascending player. That's going to be a tough piece to replace, and I'm still not sold, even though the Chiefs do have some numbers at that corner spot, and they've got some lottery picks, if you want to call it that, and guys like DeAndre Baker and Mike Hughes that you're trying to see if what they have. But if you take Charvarius Ward's snaps from last season and you spread them out to the guys who didn't get snaps last year, that would worry me a little bit based on the performance that you got. I mean, I still think Rashad Fenton is larger for a bigger role, and I don't think there's any problem there. I think you're going to be pretty good and pretty confident and comfortable with what you get from Fenton. But there's still a question mark there. It's the other guys that, showed some inconsistent play last year. And if they're getting more snaps, is that just going to lead to more inconsistencies? I mean, there's some development that needs to go there. Not so that the Chiefs are set at that position. I mean, I think that they've got to do something to address corner, whether it continues to be in free agency or the draft. But Clark is a big piece too. I mean, I certainly got the sense as we've been talking about it the last few weeks, even since the end of the season. I mean, Frank Clark going anywhere was not a foregone conclusion. This was something that the Chiefs certainly entertained, was the idea that, hey, if they can keep Frank Clark on an affordable deal, they were willing to do that. They have some experience. They're bringing somebody back that knows their defense, because let's face it, I mean, with what the Chiefs have free agency wise on that defensive line, they don't have a lot of continuity or experience right now. And Frank Clark gives them both of those things.
And that, I think, becomes the focus going forward, is supplementing both of these positions. I think you have to look at corner both in free agency and in the draft. I think you have to look at edge in both positions as well. Frank isn't enough. My question now becomes is, what is his role going forward? You've reduced the numbers so that you're not putting yourself in the hole. Had it been a release, you're nearly paying the very, very similar numbers. I won't say identical, but you've gotten yourself out of that dug hole. Now it's about actually getting the production out of it. And the money's one thing, and not putting yourself deeper down in terms of cap dollars sunk, but getting to the quarterback is a different thing. And I don't know that we've seen anything from Frank Clark to think that that's going to change around. So in my opinion, he may be relegated to a first or first and second down role, where you bring in a designated pass rusher. You might even reduce him inside, because we know he can rush against guards. But at this point, can he be a 3-down edge for you?
That's a big question to me, and I think it does play a little bit into his coming back and what the Chiefs think might happen with him, because Clark in Kansas City has certainly had trouble putting together a 16, 17 game season and staying healthy the entire year. That's continued to be an issue. There's no reason to think that that's suddenly going to go away, that it's still going to be an issue. There's also likelihood, obviously, that's the elephant in the room, that Frank Clark will miss time as a result of his off the field issues. I mean, that has not yet been resolved in the courts or with the NFL. So there's a possibility there too. So are you looking at this as the possibility that you're bringing back Frank Clark, but maybe that you're not going to have him for a period of time? Whether it's that he misses the first 4 games of the season. I mean, it's still possible this could go beyond the season, but that could happen. Is it a case of yours where you manage his time better, where he's no longer a 3-down rusher, that you really do give him more time off? Chiefs didn't do that this past year as much as I thought that they might. I thought they might take advantage of some of the young guys, and it had Joshua Kando not gotten hurt, maybe that does develop. But I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, Frank Clark at this point, he's going to be 29 this coming season. A lot of miles, some injuries on those wheels. To me, yeah, I mean, if you're going to get the best and the most out of Frank Clark, you've got to be able to manage his snap and his workload better, keep him fresher, not only through a game, but throughout the season. I mean, you do that, and to do that, you've got to be, comfortable with young guys. And at this point, the Chiefs have some young guys who just have not proven themselves or haven't gotten the chance to do that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where it is. The role aside, I think a refresh with Cullen coming in to lead the defensive front, maybe that helps some things. Maybe it changes some things as well. We know that they can add multiple people along the front. That includes defensive tackle. So really, at this point, I think it's all open for the gamble. I would probably play Frank early downs rather than late and try to bring in somebody that is more of the speed rusher, somebody that I think can get around the edge a little bit more. Would you like to see that, or would you rather see it reverse where Frank is your designated pass rusher?
Yeah, it's a good question because I mean, I do see some juice still in Frank as a pass rusher. So having him in there on third down, I think would be beneficial at some times. And then, but then again, I mean, it's one of those catch 22s. I mean, he hasn't been as productive as an edge rusher. So maybe, and especially I think he has been pretty good against the run at times, so to me, it's a bit of a flip of the coin. I could make an argument that maybe the best way to manage his workload is to simply give him series off throughout a game. And that's something that was Brendan Daly's strategy. I mean, that's generally how he kept guys fresh, was just giving them a series off. Certainly they had a third down package where they brought guys in. So sometimes even Jones and Clark were both off the field on third downs, and they did some things. But I think generally they just need to, manage his workload, period. But I'm with you in the sense that they're not done. I mean, they still need to look for additions on the edge, whether it's trades, whether it's the draft, whether it's further in free agency. I mean, I think all three of those may be possibilities. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I am very intrigued with one player that they have on the roster, but I'm not willing to put all my eggs in that basket, because Malik Herring is a lot of tools and talent and a lot of experience at a high level. I want to see, coming off that ACL, what he's got. But I'm not putting, I mean, to me, if Malik Herring turns into something, that's great. But you can't put any eggs in that basket because you don't know what you got right now.
I think you can help that basket flourish if you bring in some of his teammates. I'm just going to say that. We'll talk about the draft later, folks. I do want to find out what comes next, Matt. We'll get to that after this. So let's make us a scenario. This is our show. We can do what we want with it, right?
I love it. Let's do it.
So Mike Borgonzi has appendicitis. So you are now Brett Veach's right-hand man. This is the way it works. No Ryan Poles left in the building. It's you and Ryan not going back and forth telling Brett what he ought to do. What are you telling him? What is your next target here? Like we're recording here as 30 hours into free agency here. So there are some things yet to be done. There are a lot of older pass rushers available. Is that something that you're going after hard and fast, or are you waiting to see what happens? Like, what are you advising him?
I am advising Brett to say, hey, let's call some of these guys, Chandler Jones, hey, Von Miller, some of the older guys. Let's see if they want to just, try and go get that ring. I mean, Von's already got his ring, so doesn't need to maybe he wants one more. Talk to some of these guys that are maybe ring shopping. And if they're willing to come here on 1-year deals, perfect. I'm telling Brett, no, you don't give a multi-year deal to a 32 or a 34-year-old edge rusher. I don't care if they come out and do have a great season. If they do and they don't get hurt, fantastic. But no, we can't afford to do that. So I would do that. I would be working the phones around the league to see who might be available for a trade. Is there somebody out there? The tough thing is that I mean, looking even at the free agent class for next year, which when the Chiefs got Frank Clark, I mean, that was the classic case. I mean, Clark was going to be a free agent the following season. Now's the time, to try and make a move. Honestly, next year's free agent class of edge rushers doesn't look much better than this year's. So I don't know if that true impact player is out there. I'm keeping my phone close with Melvin Ingram. Hey, Melvin, I get it. You don't want to do OTAs at your age. That's great. We don't need you for OTAs. Let's check back in May, but make sure if somebody calls you, you let us know. But other than that, and there might be a few other players on that same thing, but I'm hitting right now, I'm hitting the draft class hard. I'm looking for some trade prospects. I'm not giving anything more than a 1-year, $8 million deal to anybody who's on the free agent edge market right now. The only ones that I might consider that differently might be somebody like Zadarius Smith. But even then, I got some questions because of the injuries and the age.
I'm going to need x-rays. I'm going to need blood work.
You need some medicals. The one name that I'm surprised it hasn't, really popped yet is Arden Key. I mean, he's really the only young edge rusher that's out there. It have to be affordable. I mean, I'm not giving Arden Key $16 million for 4 years or anything.
That'll disappear fast. No, you don't want to do that. So then the question becomes, because of the state of the market, you're going to have to wait a little bit. I understand that. maybe we'll see some traction here. A lot of rumor going around about Von Miller right now, who's my preference. I think he's the closest to being what he was in terms of the older generation right now. So I would make that investment. But a couple of other things need to get done as well. So is edge your top priority? Is corner still out there? Are you looking for a third safety that you know has starting experience that you want to go get? What about right tackle? Where do these positions fall into your hierarchy right now?
Yeah, right tackle is an interesting one because I think obviously the smartest thing for the Chiefs would probably be to tie up one of their options that they have in house affordably. I mean,
Mhm.
they've got tons of them. Now, Mike Rimmers coming off a back issue might be worrisome at his age. Maybe that's one you pass on. But I mean, I'm almost surprised at this point that the Chiefs haven't locked up Andrew Wiley. I mean, that should be an affordable deal. He's flexible. He's, can play multiple positions for you. He can handle right tackle if need be. That's an
Mhm.
affordable solution, and certainly if you're the Chiefs, you don't have to pay $12 million for a right tackle. I mean, you've got some other options. So kind of surprised that maybe they haven't done yet. I mean, Kyle Long's obviously, never played down for the Chiefs, so maybe give him a chance to play it down. But a little bit surprised that they haven't addressed that with somebody that they have around right now. Again, I don't know that with their cap situation, that's a place where I'm going to be spending a lot of money. The
Mhm.
one thing that might be interesting, and I've heard it kicked around, and I would certainly be intrigued, would be Eric Fisher. Um,
Ah,
if he'd be willing to come back and what his interest would be in playing on the right side, I don't
yep,
know. Maybe he has 0 because just flipping sides is not as easy as it sounds.
true.
But hey, I'd at least wanted him to, give me a no before I moved on.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I still think that the Chiefs or covet a wide receiver. I think corner and edge are still bigger needs, but it would not surprise me at all that if the Chiefs do make a splash of some sort at receiver. But yeah, and I don't think they're going to make a big splash at corner. I mean, if they sign a corner, I think it's going to be probably in the second and third waves when maybe it's somebody just slides under the radar and is a affordable veteran, but maybe not somebody that you're counting on to be a starter.
Yeah. That's my thought as well. I just want to see where they're going to put the money. There will be money. They haven't done or announced at least the Patrick Mahomes roster bonus restructure, which we know is coming in order to get all of this done. Not a ton of money saved, Frank Clark, but over 10, more than I had expected, right? So it's looking somewhere in what the 15 to 20 range that they should have available here at the start of the league year. Maybe we don't see any movement until then. But wide receivers kind of where I have my bet is their next or only big move.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that I always expected all along that the Chiefs were going to be active. It was going to be more in the second and third waves of free agency. I mean,
Mhm.
that they were going to be bargain shopping, and I think even Justin Reid fits in a little bit into that category because once again, I mean, we said at the top of the show, I think 3 years, 31 million is a bargain for Justin Reid. So if you get that chance in the first wave, get it done.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, at this point, I think that probably need to have a little wait and see attitude with the Chiefs. I mean, they could still be in the ballpark for something. Maybe there's going to be some small deals here and there, but yeah, I think they're going to be really looking in the second and third waves and seeing what kind of bargains are out there to be had.
Well, folks, when the news comes out, we'll let you know, and you'll have to go check Chiefs Digest because that's where you'll find the news. Matt, thanks for your time and walking us through all this.
Always a blast, Ryan. Take care, everybody.
Folks, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.